Welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. A lot has happened since the last time we visited. The Capitol was stormed. Never thought you'd hear me saying that, right? The Capitol was stormed by Donald Trump's supporters. It leaves you shaking your head. The People's House was broken into, and Trump supporters ended up sitting on the president's chair in the chamber of the United States Senate. They bashed Nancy Pelosi's office. They went into the office of the parliamentarian, which is where all the records are kept. That got trashed. People stole things. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And of course, the nation is reacting to it. In the end, Congress went back in and they certified the election. They went back in and they said what they had to say in relation to the situation of, hey, how did we get here? Now, we're going to give you some of that today as we go down the road. But first, we have to ask ourselves why. How did they get there? What empowered this group to break through the security at the Capitol? What empowered this group to put 15 members of the Capitol Police in the hospital? What empowered this group to make sure that one woman was dead? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, I've brought along afternoon talk show host Tyler Axness. Afternoons with Tyler Axness, and I would add this as well. The host and the writer of ND Explains. Tyler, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Oh, Joel, it's a pleasure to be here. Wish it was about different circumstances, different events that led to this. I can tell you, as I think many of your viewers here on Beck TV down the road, the roller coaster of emotions kind of taken it out of a person over the last 24 hours. Everything from concern to sadness to anger to trying to figure out how we prevent this from happening again and try to make sense of it all has been pretty draining, I would say.
You know, it's been since 1814 when the Capitol was stormed before. 1814. It's been that long. And this time people are out there trying to spin that the cause of this was something completely different than what it was. In fact, conservative media here in the state of North Dakota is trying to say it was Black Lives Matter. Ridiculous, yeah. But I'm curious what your take is.
Well, I think some of those same individuals you're referring to were at the rally that led up to the march that led into the breaking into the Capitol. And I don't know if they were distracted or not listening to the very speeches from the president himself, from the president's son, from the president's personal attorney that really riled the crowd up. And the crowd was out there for weeks planning to come out and, hey, we're going to make a statement. I don't know if it was the exact moment of that, the Rudy Giuliani's talking about, trial by combat that led to that extra step saying we're going. That led it, but there was no way that with that and then in conjunction with what happened from the president afterwards and congratulating them, saying stop, but we love you, it's a clear indication of who was there at the Capitol, Joel.
Let's take a view of some of that. In fact, we're going to go to clip number one, which involves President Trump before the riot itself. Take a view of this.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
You have to show strength, and you have to be strong, and we're not going to be cheering for some of them. He had, by that time, turned on Mike Pence, his own vice president, one of the most loyal members of his team.
Mike Pence is just the latest individual that has dedicated a lot of their service over the last 4 years to being loyal to Donald Trump, the president. And after all of that, after doing whatever was asked of him to do for the president, is now the one that was in the crosshairs, so to speak, as far as taking the brunt of the blame that he was just simply doing his job as laid out in the Constitution. And the vice president's there to just count votes. And this, I think, is going to be that moment that we look back on as far as just the Republican Party as a whole, of where you can say that here's where the split went from those that are only a part of the Republican Party because of Donald Trump and those that might be the Mike Pences, maybe even the Mitt Romneys, and how this goes forward if you're wanting to be in elected office of Republicans. Pretty drawing to go forward. And what path do you do?
Well, and they were encouraged to. By the President of the United States, he encouraged them to walk down to the Capitol and do what they needed to do to get that point across. And clearly they did. In fact, Donald Trump Jr. spoke at that same rally. And I think we need to take a look at that.
You actually all did something I didn't realize was possible. I'm looking at the crowd here and the tens of thousands, probably 100,000 plus people here. And you did it all without burning down buildings? You did it without ripping down churches? Without looting? I didn't know that that was possible.
Well, he's wrong. You know, they didn't do it without looting. They didn't do it without ripping down property. You know, basically, he again showed them the way.
Well, and that clip didn't live up well, because it was within an hour, 2 hours after saying those remarks that they went, and it wasn't just any building, it was the people's building, as you've been saying. It's taxpayers, it's the work of our American democracy that was just kicked in. The front doors, I mean, you know, this wasn't a, hey, this is open, we can just freely flow in. You've been to the building, I've been to the building. We've met the police officers that are trying to keep the orderly entrance to. That didn't happen. People were climbing walls to get into sight of some of the congressional office windows, doing the scaffoldings. 4 years ago, there was an inaugural setup there that is set up yet again, as it is every 4 years. 4 years ago was Donald Trump. A couple weeks from now, it's going to be Joe Biden. They used that to find ways into the Capitol, then to loot. I mean, you saw the photos. They were pretty proud of someone taking podiums, sitting and taking mail from Speaker Pelosi's desk. You know, they
trashed it. Everywhere they went, they trashed it.
They did.
You know, to say that they didn't do it violently, to say that they didn't ask those Capitol Police how violent they were.
The latest I'd seen as far as numbers of Capitol Police, 60 injured, 15 hospitalized, 1 critical. And according to a congressman from Ohio, because of lead pipes.
Yeah. And they found how many explosive devices?
I believe 2.
At least 2.
At least 2.
And of course, the investigation of that goes on. I want to make, you know, one of the individuals at that rally that spoke to the crowd yesterday that was the most inflammatory was Rudy Giuliani. And I want to make sure you get a chance to see that.
To see one machine or one paper ballot. Now, if they ran such a clean election, why wouldn't they make all the machines available immediately? If they ran such a clean election, they'd have you come in and look at the paper ballots. Who hides evidence? Criminals hide evidence, not honest people. So, over the next 10 days, we get to see the machines that are crooked, the ballots that are fraudulent, and if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So, let's have trial by combat. I'm willing to stake my reputation. The president is willing to stake his reputation on the fact that we're going to find criminality there.
What reputation? He's lost his. Number one, trial by combat. Number two, be made a fool of. You know, here's the truth. Everything he just said is a lie.
There is a process. It's been the same process that county votes for a very long time. It's up to the states to determine all that, who's allowed to be in and who's not allowed to be in. You go through a process to do that. People have been able to watch. People have been able to count. I mean, in fact, some of the places you talk about had recounts, and they didn't find anything.
4 times the ballots in Georgia were counted.
Correct.
By hand, they were counted. A Republican administration official, the Secretary of State, who's a Republican in Georgia, said this election was run fair and it was run good.
And with that, I mean, this is where the noise comes from, perpetrated in part by Rudy Giuliani, some of the others that know better, quite simply, Joel, that are in elected office, that rely on this very process every 2 or 4 or 6 years to get the title, to get the benefits that come with the title. They know how this plays out every election cycle, but they stood by and allowed the lies of the Rudy Giulianis and some of the misinformation on social media to get out there and not push back on it.
Should Rudy Giuliani be in jail?
Of everything we heard in that rally yesterday, to me, the most clear, if you're going to say that if anything was inciting violence, it's that trial by combat. To me, that is the most clear, taking it a step too far. And if we're going to prevent this from happening again, there's got to be some accountability at some point, Joel.
I want people to draw this image in their head. Martin Luther King at the feet of the great man, at the feet of Abraham Lincoln, the statue of Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial. Martin Luther King there giving his I Have a Dream speech, one of the most historic and beautiful speeches in the history of America. The whole mall in D.C. plump full of people, way more people than what we saw yesterday at this rally. If Martin Luther King had said, we're going to the Capitol and we're going to do this by force, what would have happened to him?
Arrest at the very least.
If not shot.
At the very least.
Yeah.
He was arrested for much less than what some of the people haven't been arrested for yet out on the Capitol, Joel.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to deter crime, you need arrests. If you're going to make sure that there's justice, you need arrests. When we come back, we're going to find out how Congress responded to this. That was their house and our house that was tore down yesterday. Let's visit some more as we go down the road.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink for trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Good to have you coming down the road with us. In studio with me is the editor of ND Explains. It's a blog. It's a website that you owe it to yourself to check out. Excellent work. Also, a radio host at KFGO Afternoons Live with Tyler Axness. Tyler, good to have you still here, bud.
Glad to be here, Joel.
Want to talk a little bit about people trying to reinvent their image after damaging it so much by supporting Donald Trump, and those that, quite frankly, had the courage to never go down that road. Certainly, there are congressmen and senators that are running 100 miles an hour the other way.
There are, and you can see that it certainly the floodgates towards that, trying to backtrack, happened after this threat was right at their doorsteps, and that they had to evacuate the Capitol building to do their work. And I'm not sure if there was a notion for some of these prior to the storming of the Capitol that, you know what we say, what we fundraise off of, the conspiracy theories that we promote just to make sure that we have a base here, that wouldn't have just kept adding some fuel to that fire that they ultimately saw. And it was only after the fact that they realized, you know what, this has gone too far.
Mike Pence is about as bland as vanilla ice cream. He really is. And he's been one of the most staunch supporters of the president. But guys, I'm going to go to clip number 7 here, because when Mike Pence came back into the chamber, this is a man whose life was in danger. President Trump had called him out, and people ended up sitting in his chair, having pictures taken of themselves as they rioted and looted the U.S. Senate chamber. So please hit clip number 7, because what Mike Pence did here in talking to the Senate body, to me, showed what really could be a great quality in Mike Pence.
Federal, state, and local law enforcement. The violence was quelled. The Capitol is secured, and the people's work continues. We condemn the violence that took place here in the strongest possible terms. We grieve the loss of life in these hallowed halls, as well as the injuries suffered by those who defended our Capitol today. And we will always be grateful to the men and women who stayed at their posts to defend this historic place. To those who wreaked havoc in our Capitol today, you did not win. Violence never wins. Freedom wins. And this is still the people's house. And as we reconvene in this chamber, the world will again witness the resilience and strength of our democracy. For even in the wake of unprecedented violence and vandalism at this Capitol, the elected representatives of the people of the United States have assembled again on the very same day to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. So may God bless the lost, the injured, and the heroes forged on this day. May God bless all who serve here and those who protect this place. And may God bless the United States of America. Let's get back to work.
Back to work. Yeah. And they did. They got back to work. They certified that election last night. But I can guarantee you this, Tyler. Donald Trump and Donald Trump's speechwriter did not write that.
No. You could hear it. You could hear in a lot of the speeches last night that there was some raw emotion. I think there was still some shock about what happened. I think there were some that were rightfully called out. Mitt Romney gave, I think, one of his better speeches, and he said it looking in the eyes of Ted Cruz, who earlier that day, while people were kicking in the windows to the Capitol, was sending out fundraising emails to raise some money off of the objections he was about to cause. Yep. Mike Pence or his staff wrote that, knew that it was time to get to work and that nothing was going to prevent what was inevitable because of our Constitution.
You know, there are some that are going to try to reinvent their place in history. Lindsey Graham is one of those. Lindsey Graham had taken after Donald Trump in the race for presidency of the United States. He knew what he was. Oh. He knew what he was. He knows what he is. Lindsey Graham is smart enough to know that if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And yet he still went along with them. Lindsey Graham was best friends with John McCain. I was from Me to You away as we ate supper. The interaction that John McCain and Lindsey Graham had was like two brothers. President Trump called John McCain everything he could possibly call him before John McCain died. And Lindsey Graham sat there and he took it. He allowed it. And now Lindsey Graham, after all of this, is trying to reinvent himself, trying to be that leader again that he had the opportunity to be. Take a listen to what Lindsey Graham did in the United States Senate last night.
The final thing, Joe Biden. I've traveled the world with Joe. I hoped he lost. I prayed he would lose. He won. He's the legitimate president of the United States. I cannot convince people, certain groups, by my words, but I will tell you by my actions that maybe I, above all others in this body, need to say this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are lawfully elected and will become the president and the vice president of the United States on January the 20th.
And you know why he, above all others, needed to say that is because he had sold himself out. He had sold out his heart and soul. Ted Cruz is an idiot. I mean, Ted Cruz is an idiot. And so Ted Cruz standing up and saying that wouldn't have mattered diddly. Because who cares what Ted Cruz said? People used to care what Lindsey Graham said. Now he's trying to reinvent himself.
You're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Locally here, I think you're going to be seeing some of that as well.
You bet you will.
You know, and Lindsey Graham, and I know we don't have the clip, but you know, you talked about his relationship with John McCain. He had a pretty good working relationship with Joe Biden as well. And there's a clip out there of him getting emotional, talking about how good, genuine Joe Biden is. I don't know why someone like Lindsey Graham or Mike Pence for the last 4 years, 4.5, allowed themselves to get roped into where they weren't themselves. Or they were not who they're at least trying to be going forward here. Politically speaking, I don't think people can let them forget as far as what they enabled. Part of what they did not say leading up to yesterday led to what happened yesterday, Joel.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Part of what they did not say, and they bear the brunt of that. And I'm just going to say this. Our very own United States Senator Kevin Cramer did whatever was asked of him by Donald Trump for his whole presidency. He used that to his own benefit. I get it. I understand that. That's politics. Unless you're selling your soul, unless you're doing everything you can to tear down the Constitution of the United States of America. And Kevin Cramer did that. He bears some of this responsibility.
This goes back to what I said at the beginning, is there's people that have known better this whole time, especially when it comes to the election and the results and how this all works, that stayed silent. And when they spoke, they had said it in that gray area to allow for that anger to keep building up, and ultimately it boiled over yesterday.
You know, the whole, I don't know if that's what he really meant. Or, you know, he just talks that way. Or, you know, that's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. Give me a break. He's the presidency, or he's the president of the United States of America. I have 6 grandkids. And you know what? I don't want them to be like that. I'd love to see them aspire to be someone that holds the highest office in the land, but I'm embarrassed to tell my grandkids that's the President of the United States. And so I'm going to ask you this in a little bit of time we have left. Should Mike Pence invoke the 25th Amendment to the Constitution, which empowers him to remove the president as long as he has the majority vote of the cabinet?
There's a lot of chatter about that, Joel. Should it happen? Discussions at the very least, yes. I mean, we've got 2 weeks left, and we're unaware of whether or not this is the crescendo or if this is just the beginning to a very tumultuous 13 days. Mike Pence's life was threatened yesterday, along with members of Congress. The lineage to the presidency, God forbid anything were to happen to the man in the office now, was all in the Capitol building, essentially, yesterday. And to learn that Mike Pence, the vice president, was the one that issued and authorized the National Guard in D.C. raises a lot of questions to me about what's going on already out there.
Exactly. He had the guts to do it. Let me just give you this thought, folks, as well. Okay, lover, hater, whatever. Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi, okay? That's third in line for President of the United States. You've got Mike Pence, who is second in line right now for President of the United States. You had Kamala Harris in that chamber, who is the Vice President-elect. You know There were people within that crowd that shouldn't have been in that crowd. These people were violent. They had explosive devices. They could have completely overthrown our government, all because people dog whistled them and sent them there to do damage. And you know what? The people that supported that belong in jail too. We'll do more down the road when we come back. Earl Pomeroy, who served in that chamber, joins us right after this.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Thanks for staying on the road with us now. I'm going to introduce you to somebody that needs no introduction. You know who he is. He knows the halls of the Capitol. He served there many, many years. In fact, he was there during 9/11. He knows what it's like to be there during crisis, and that is former Congressman for the great state of North Dakota, Earl Pomeroy. Congressman, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you, Joel. Good to be on your show.
What was your reaction? Your reaction to seeing those insurgents, those terrorists, go into our Capitol yesterday?
Well, I first of all couldn't believe my eyes when they penetrated the barrier and were on the steps of the Capitol. I was shocked when they were walking through the halls of the Capitol. I felt like there were robbers in my living room. That's a kind of emotional gut check it gave me. This is the people's house. And it's secured for the important, critical business of the nation. And to have thugs roaming the halls, it was a very sad hour for our country.
You know, Congressman, there are people out there already spinning. Conservative media nationwide saying this was Black Lives Matter. Local conservative media that was there, that was present, saying this was Black Lives Matter. We know it was because the day before, a black man walked up to me and said, "You just wait till tomorrow, cracker." Well, I mean, because of that reason, we've got conservative radio media here saying that this wasn't Trump supporters, this was Black Lives Matter. How do you fix that? How do you know, they're embedding that in people's minds, Congressman.
Yeah, it's part of the big lie run over and over again with malicious intent. Look, we know what protesters look like. That did not look like a Black Lives Matter protest. That looked like the MAGA mob that the president stirred up and launched on the Hill. Now, they want to create a fiction that they win always. If they lose, someone stole it. Secondly, if something bad happens, reflects badly on them, it wasn't them, it was somebody else. I mean, honest to goodness, it's like a schoolyard liar, and no more sophisticated than that. The American people have to, I think, confront those among us, including neighbors, family members in my case, that sometimes are spreading these things. Obviously not immediate family, but you know, we all have the cousins and the whatnots that have really bought into this hook, line, and sinker. We have to find out ways to engage and knock down these overt lies, because we could see what our own eyes told us what the story was yesterday.
Yeah, when you see the rally and you hear the president and what he said about walking down to the Capitol, using, saying, this needs force, those type of things. When you see Donald Trump Jr. saying, you know what? We don't wreck things. We don't loot things. And then you see Rudy Giuliani talk about taking things by force.
Yeah.
I mean, are they responsible? To the point, I might add, where Rudy Giuliani, as one example, should be arrested for this.
Well, my view is that there has to be a very thorough analysis. Every frame of video looked at. We've got to prosecute those who are violating the law yesterday. An incitement to riot, incitement to insurgency against the United States of America, that's criminal behavior. So as we're looking at these frames, we're going to look at the frames of those speeches that might have been really beyond the pale. Not a speech exhorting followers, but really an incitement to riot against the Capitol of the United States of America. That's criminal.
You're a historian. I mean, you have a passion for America. You could have made money, a whole lot of more money some other way than what you did as a congressman, and yet you were willing to serve this state. So I'm going to ask you this. You take Martin Luther King at the feet of the great man, giving an I Have a Dream speech with all of those people in the mall, right? Way more than what you saw yesterday. If he had enticed them, if he had said, we're going to walk up to the Capitol and we need to use force, what do you think would have happened to Dr. King?
Well, I believe that would have been a lot of bloodshed, and the security forces would have opened fire. I was there during the Black Lives Matter march, Joe. About 1 million black men on the mall, a crowd that stretched from the Capitol, steps of the Capitol, all the way down to the Washington Monument. There was a robust security presence protecting the Capitol, but it was, that was completely appropriate. No one turned from the monument and came to the Capitol. It was a completely peaceful demonstration. So it's not as though we have a history of mutual violence. There have been important demonstrations in the Capitol. There often are. It's celebration of our First Amendment rights. But yesterday was unprecedented and disgusting and unacceptable, led by the leader of our country. And so the fact that this is still reverberating around with such intensity today is because something very, very bad happened yesterday. Yeah, the Congress came back in. They went back into the House. They went back into the Senate. They got the job done. They accepted the Electoral College report, setting the stage for the inauguration of the next president. But it's not like, okay, well, the boys will be boys. We had kind of a rough day yesterday. No, this was an insurgent attack on the United States Capitol. I've heard that up to 60 Capitol police were injured, one of them critically. I don't have that. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of all of this. The information is flying around. But this was really a very serious violation of any acceptable means of protest. It has to be criminally prosecuted.
You served in that hollow chamber. You know where the exits are. You know how to get around in that Capitol. To see the Capitol Police come in and to see fellow congressmen and congresswomen laying underneath their desks, laying down in the aisles, laying down in the balconies with gas masks. Is there training for that? Does somebody bring you in as a member of Congress and say, look, if this happens, here's what we need you to do?
No, there's not. I haven't been there for 10 years, but I was there through 9/11. We are learned to basically stay within the security envelope that our wonderfully talented police are providing. And what I think the intensity you saw on the House floor, where these guys are at the window and the guns are pointed, what that was about was there were members of Congress in the chamber, and if necessary, shots were going to be fired. Indeed, one woman was killed as they felt the members' their lives were in danger, and they were going to meet that force however necessary. And as far as I know, the House chamber was not penetrated like the Senate was. And the difference was members were in the House, and they were going to use lethal force if necessary to protect those members. It was a horrific scene, and you can believe me, members of Congress are going to want to get absolutely to the bottom of what led to such an appalling security breakdown while we look at the criminality of the participants.
Being that student of government and being an individual who was elected to one of the highest offices you can for the state of North Dakota, when you heard those speeches, when you heard the passion that came out in those speeches, when you heard the attempts to reinvent individuals in those speeches, and you hear someone like Mitt Romney, who we're going to play later in this show, when you hear a Mitt Romney stand up from the same party as the president and say what he did last night, what do you think?
You know, I've worked with Republicans all my life. And Mitt Romney spoke for all of them. I don't know this new crazy crowd. That's not the kind of Republican with whom I did business or battle over all those years of campaigns. We've come on anchored, and I think that party leaders of the kind of sterling integrity Mitt Romney continues to demonstrate are the voices we need to listen to very carefully, both sides, as we pull back from the brink and get back into regular order.
Congressman Pomeroy, I can tell you this. You've been my friend a long time, and you've been a good friend. Had you been in that chamber, I would have been as nervous as I could be. I texted Congressman Armstrong and said, please let us know that you're okay. He was good enough to do that, and we helped get out word. So, you know, thank God none of them got hurt just for going to serve. Congressman Pomeroy, thanks for going down the road with us.
Thank you very much, Joel.
You know, when we come back, I've got some more clips for you. I've got some clips from those speeches on the Senate floor. I want you to hear them. I want you to hear them because they are part of history that's going to be played in classrooms time and time again. And you deserve to see them. And if you've seen them, see them again.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a combo roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
You know, I want to make sure I get some of these things off my chest. That's why it's called Down the Road with Joel, because I get a chance to. I went through a whole bunch of emotions yesterday. It began with fear. It did. It began with fear. When you hear the president and you hear his son and you hear his attorney dog whistle these supporters, in fact, go right out and claim to use force, you get fearful. You get fearful of what is going to happen for those people you know and respect that are on the other end of that rage that was sent to the Capitol. You get fearful. Then I got sad. I got sad for our democracy. I got sad for the fact that this is where we're going to be in history, that other nations are going to look at us and say, see, democracy doesn't work. You can bet they're having that conversation in China right now. Then I got mad. I think I'm still mad now, as you can tell. I was like, come on. How do you let this happen? Didn't you folks know who this president was? Didn't you know? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Then I got hopeful. I did. I got hopeful. And the reason I got hopeful is because I heard this man speak last night on the Senate floor. And that was Mitt Romney. You know, just take a listen to this.
Now we gather due to a selfish man's injured pride and the outrage of supporters who he has deliberately misinformed for the past 2 months and stirred to action this very morning. What happened here today was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States. Those who choose to continue to support his dangerous gambit by objecting to the results of a legitimate democratic election will forever be seen as being complicit in an unprecedented attack against our democracy. Fairly or not, they'll be remembered for their role in this shameful episode in American history. That will be their legacy. I salute Senator Langford and Loeffler and Braun and Daines, and I'm sure others, who in the light of today's outrage have withdrawn their objection. For any who remain insistent on an audit in order to satisfy the many people who believe that the election was stolen, I'd offer this perspective. No congressional audit is ever going to convince these voters, particularly when the president will continue to say that the election was stolen. The best way we can show respect for the voters who are upset is by telling them the truth.
That man right there had received the nomination from the Republican Party for President of the United States of America. That's what the Republican Party thought of him. That's what the Republican Party was. That's what it was, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Republican Party we need. One that can talk about policy, one that can talk about government spending, one that can talk about our role in this world, and we have respect for as a nation. But that's not the Republican Party anymore. That is not the Republican Party anymore. And when he said complicit, when he said some of you are that, you know who he was talking about? He was talking about Ted Cruz. That's who he was talking about. He was talking about the role that Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. Now, Josh Hawley went to Stanford. Josh Hawley went on to Harvard to get his law degree. For all of you folks who say, you know what, I don't have a degree, or I sure don't have a big shot degree. I don't have that. I went to the University of North Dakota. I went to NDSU. I went to NDSCS. You know what? You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine, because apparently you don't need to go to Stanford, and you sure don't need to go to Harvard, because Josh Hawley's an idiot. And that pose that he had yesterday, as he looked at the crowd, as he looked at that crowd of people that stormed the Capitol, will be remembered for a long time. And what he was doing prior to that was running for president. He wanted those Trump supporters. He wanted them bad. You know what? Now he has them. He has them. As does Ted Cruz. They were both running for president. That blood is on their hands. And Mitt Romney knows it. And he called them out on it. I want you to get a chance to hear from Cory Booker. And when you listen to this, ask yourself if this is a political speech, which yes, it is. But ask yourself if it's the truth. And if you can't fake that passion. Take a listen to Cory Booker.
What's interesting about the parallel between the two is they both were waving flags to a sole sovereign, to an individual, surrendering democratic principles to the cult of personality. One was a monarch in England, and the other were the flags I saw all over our Capitol, including in the hallways and in this room, to a single person named Donald Trump. The sad difference between these two times is one was yet another nation in the history of our country that tried to challenge the United States of America. But this time, we brought this hell upon ourselves. My colleague from Texas said that this was a moment where there were unprecedented allegations of voter fraud. Yes, that is true. They were unprecedented when the president, before the election even happened, said, if I lose this election, then the election was rigged. That's unprecedented. It's unprecedented before the night of the voting, even the counting of the vote was even done, that he called it rigged. And it's unprecedented that he is fanning the flames of conspiracy theory to create a smokescreen in this nation to cover what he is trying to do, which is undermine our democratic principles. But it's not just that. The shame of this day is it's being aided and abetted by good Americans who are falling prey, who are choosing Trump over truth, who are surrendering to the passion of lies as opposed to standing up and speaking truth to power, who are trying to fundraise off of the shame of conspiracy theories as opposed to doing the incalculably valuable, patriotic thing to speak truth to our nation. Our democracy is wounded, and I saw it when I saw pictures of yet another insurgency, of a flag of another group of Americans who tried to challenge our nation. I saw the flag of the Confederacy there. What will we do? How will we confront this shame? How will we confront this dark second time in American history?
That's honest. That's honesty, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what it is. He looked everyone in the eye and he said, how do we get by that? Well, let's take a look at that. Since the election, when Joe Biden won, And now finally, many of these Republicans who were against that are saying, you know what, you won. They didn't want to say it before because they were fearful of the man, right? They were fearful of all of that wrath that Donald Trump could bring down upon him. You know what? They're finally admitting it now. So here we sit. Here we sit with a group of people that won't ever admit it. Here's my answer to that. I don't care. I don't care. All we did for the last how much time between the election and now is try to placate, try to bring the country together, and try to say we can heal. You're never going to heal with these folks. You're never going to heal with them. You saw who they were yesterday. You saw who they were. They showed you. And so, you know what? If we're going to move this country forward, we just got to move it forward without them. They are not in the majority. And when you're not in the majority, you can take a back seat because breaking through the Capitol doors isn't the way to get into the front seat. I'll have some closing comments for you when we come back down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a County Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here were terrific. We enjoy it.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
You know, it's always good going down the road with you. This day, I wish we hadn't had to talk about all the things that happened yesterday. I think we all wish we wouldn't had to have a conversation about what happened yesterday. Actually, that's not true. Some of us, some of the individuals in my state, in media, in the town that I'm in, Fargo right now, went out there and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And it's wrong. It's wrong to sit there and pretend that, you know what, nothing happened. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't Donald Trump's fault. He played a role in this, ladies and gentlemen. He played a role. And you know what? You know what Donald Trump, if he chose to right now, could grab his phone and say on Twitter? You know what he could say on Facebook if he wanted to right now? If he wanted to go out and speak to the American people on Facebook or Twitter, you know what he could say? Nothing. Nothing. They've shut him down. He can't even go on Facebook or Twitter right now. He can't. They've suspended it until at least after the inaugural because they know what a threat he is. They saw what happened yesterday. They took away his ability to communicate. Zuckerberg is a supporter. Don't kid yourself. He's a supporter of the president. My question is, what took him so long? My question is, how in the world did we get there? I got a message today from someone who pointed out that, you know, the great state of Minnesota lost over 80% of its soldiers at Gettysburg. That's right. They lost over 80% of its soldiers that were in a unit at Gettysburg, fighting against the very flag you just saw walking through our Capitol. Fighting against that flag. Think about that. Just think about that. So where do we go from here? Well, we can't be afraid. Because the very man that isn't allowed to go on Twitter and isn't allowed to go on Facebook has the nuclear code. That same man has the power to hit the button. And so I think you owe it to yourself. I think all of you owe it to yourself. I don't know where you get your information. If you pull up your cell phone, if you go to the Encyclopedia Britannica yet, I don't know where you go to get your information, but find out about the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. Find out about it because you owe it to yourself. And Vice President Pence owes it to this country. You know, I wish we had never gotten here, but it's people that allowed him to that allowed this to happen. And some of them are ours. Good riding with you, folks.